Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Titus, chapter 3, verse 1. Put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work. And I'm going to repeat that. Oops, sorry. Put them in mind to be subject to principalities and powers, to obey magistrates, to be ready to every good work. Paul simply reminds Christians to be submissive to the law. Second, to our obedience to God. We can reject unjust human laws contrary to God while respecting the authority. Because we must obey our leaders. But we also need to pray for our leaders. Because we got to respect their positions. We got to remember that God has placed them there. We may not understand why he has such people in such positions, but it's not for us to understand. It's for us to trust in God. And people can't believe how we can do that, but it's very clearly how we can do that. The scriptures in the end tells us everything will be for what? Our own good. For our own benefit. We're not going to stand the process, but we can trust in and believe in the ending. We know that he's a just God. Just like he used Pharaoh to turn around and produce all these miracles. If there is evil people in the government, God is going to use them to his benefit. He always uses any evil for our own good. He uses their traps, their snares that they have planted for us, even as individuals. He's most definitely going to use them in the government situation. God knows what he's doing. We do not. God can see the beginning, the middle, and the end. We can't see what's right in front of our face half the time. So why are we to trust when we can't even see what's clearly in front of our face? But God is all-knowing. He hears. He knows. That's why we got to trust him. It's for our own good. A lot of people just can't seem to grasp it because they can't see the whole big picture. There's a lot of people that have this type of personalities. They got to see it all planned out. They got to have all this. Well, if you're going to be a Christ follower, if you're going to be one of God's children, you're going to have to let that go. Because his whole relationship is on faith. Faith is doing without seeing. Faith is having belief in things that you can't necessarily prove all the time. That's why you just got to believe in it. You got to trust in it. Most times we are our own worst enemy. We are the only ones that's stopping us. We like to blame the devil for a lot of things, but a lot of times it's just us doing it to ourselves. Stuck in our ways, stuck in our own understanding, stuck in our own terms of acknowledgement, stuck in our own wisdom, thinking that we know things. There's a lot of people who won't believe in God because they cannot understand how certain things can happen. Well, I just don't believe that the ark happened because how could you get all those animals in there? What clue is a bunch of times in the scriptures, what does it say? Don't lean onto your own understanding, but trust, because it happened. You may not could sit there with your knowledge believe how he fit all the animals in there. And I don't know if y'all seen some posts where everybody's just going all crazy about how did he get all the whales and all this stuff like that in there. First of all, that's in the ocean. They didn't need to go on the ark. It was already in the water. They could survive in the water. That's just crazy. And a lot of people can't even fathom how he put 2 by 2 in there. Well, we got to remember that we have evolved certain breeds from a main breed. That he didn't take, 2 of Border Collies, 2 of German Shepherds, 2 of a Boxers, 2 of Pit Bulls. Dogs came from dogs. We started mixing these breeds and creating our own breeds of dogs throughout time and generation. But here's something that if you was to read the scriptures, you would know for yourself. In fact, it wasn't 2 by 2s that the animals went in by the ark. It was way more than that. It clearly states in the scriptures that of the clean animals, they went in by 7. And the unclean animals went in 2 by 2. 7 pairs of the clean animals and only 2 pairs of the unclean. Why does nobody like to talk about that? People can hardly believe that we able to fit that many animals in there just going in 2 by 2s. But how powerful and mighty is God that he actually put 7 pairs of certain ones in there and then put in 2 pairs of the unclean, so that's even more. That's because Satan only likes you to know about his things. And since he's unclean, of course he's going to tell you about his pairs that went in 2 by 2. But God can do amazing things, and it's not for us to always understand. It's not always for us to even know half the time. Yes, I said it's not for us to always have to know. So we need to quit arguing with people, because even Jesus said so himself, that there would be people who will not understand and know. And he speaks in parables, and not everybody who reads this word will understand, and that we don't need to be casting our pearls in front of swine. You know what that means? Quit arguing with unbelievers about what the word says. It's not meant for them to know. Jesus said so himself. They're not going to know. They're not going to understand it. So it doesn't matter what you say. You're just literally talking to a wall. He has made it that way. Why do you think the Pharisees was not listening to what Jesus was saying, but yet they knew, because what they read, and they knew the so-called law. They didn't know what the law was saying. They didn't understand it. They could only repeat what the words were. But if they understood and really knew what it meant, then they would know who Jesus was. That's why it says clear as day that the religious people serve a different God than Christ followers, than true Christians. Because they do. They're stuck in that Pharisee boat, that Pharisee law, that Pharisee mindset, and they will never escape it. We're all told that number of the 144,000 will be sealed on the forehead. Thinking about it, there's billions of people in the world. 144,000 is not that many people. It is not. Just imagine how many so-called Christians are going to be sitting there at the gate, and he's going to say, I do not know you. Because that is a lot of people from billions of people in this world. Just only 144,000. I'm not saying that's the only people that's going to get into heaven. Oh, but that sure narrows down a lot of people who belongs to God. Think about those numbers. and think about your relationship with God and where you stand.